Ellsworth, Maine. More than 40 years later, and a continent away, as the United Nations gather to solve elemental world problems, world government is there too, speaking directly and frankly to the people.
There is no such thing as the United Nations. Nations can't unite. How the hell could they come up with an institution called the United Nations and try to blind everybody as to that's the answer to world peace? No. Peace is a consequence of law. And law comes from us. The people are sovereign, not nations. Every constitution says the same thing. India Constitution says this constitution derives from the sovereignty of the people. Well, here are the people. We're the people. The people is the human race. Humanity now is at stake. Humanity's in danger. And if you want to survive, you have to protect humanity.
But you cannot remove the progress of humanity out of its bureaucracy structure.
What we need is one government for one world. And we have documents like the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which have been proclaimed back in 1948. And they say that's a beautiful declaration. In fact, our whole government is based upon the application of this Declaration of Human Rights. It says in Article 21, Section 3, the will of the people shall be the basis of the authority of government. Well, that's it. Sign the United States, sign Brazil. What are we waiting for? So that's what we're doing here. We're giving people the awareness that they are already world citizens, whether they like it or not, whether they know it or not, and here they can claim it, and that's the solution to all the problems which are going to be presented here in Earth Summit. I went to Rio mainly to give evidence of a new way of thinking about the environment. The environment, of course, is a global concept, and that's what Earth Summit meant. There's two ways to think about territory. The nation state thinks about territory in a partial way, as divisive. It claims a particular part of the earth. The other way to think about territory is as a whole. The whole has its own life, its own right to live. And that brings in the whole question of sovereignty, which is a conflict between the sovereignty assumed by the nation-state system as being partial and divisive and absolute in those partial terms, and the sovereignty of the earth. We had two elements in Rio. We had the UNCED, which was the nation-state system, which was totally inconsistent with the concept of the environment. And the other side was we had non-governmental organizations. Well, non-governmental says no power, no sovereignty. So we came into that vacuum, you might say. We said, what is needed here is a government which represents the sovereignty of the earth. And that can only be a global government. I don't say we're going to have environmental laws, world environmental laws, with enforcement capacity, with judicial capacity, with executive capacity tomorrow or in this next 10 days. That's not the point. The point is we have to agree that that's what we need and that each one of us is involved in that agreement. See, that's world citizenship. That's real world.
Because of the wisdom of his words and because of his own dynamic personality, but I feel that more and more people are thinking like Gary Davis, and that he is becoming the spokesman for a large part of humanity.
The world is watching Brazil today. The world is watching Rio de Janeiro. This is what is called in history a world moment. And you're all here. The eyes of the world are on Rio de Janeiro today. Application forms and world passport here, Diane.
Very good. I like it what you said.
Oh, thank you.
The world passports, which were being issued directly from the world government stand, attracted intense interest and not a little skepticism. 250,000 of these passports have been issued since world government was declared in 1953. No one has used this passport more than Davis himself.
This is a passport which represents the right of freedom of travel. It's the only passport I have. This is my passport. I gave up my nationality when I was 26 years old. This is the only passport I travel with. I've traveled all over the world. I've traveled everywhere. If I can do it, you can do it. But you have to know that you have the right to do it. Here's your visa of your country. This is a visa of Brazil.
That's all I need.
Okay, how can the government of Brazil, a sovereign government, put a visa on a passport which is issued by a world government? The passport was there. It wasn't just a theory. We had it in our hands. People could get it. And that actually was a way of confronting this divisive character of the state, the frontier world to which everybody is subject, you see. So in that sense, it was a very popular concept. We were practicing what we preached.
But it's still a dream, a wonderful dream.
Not a dream. Am I a dream?
Yes, because I'm Brazilian, and if I go to the United States, I have to have a passport.
You're not Brazilian.
Passport.
As
Yes,
long
I
as you
am.
think of yourself as Brazilian, then you're Brazilian. But if you think of yourself as a woman in the world,
Yes.
allied with, you see, women are 50%, over 50% of the human race. And as long as you keep dividing yourselves, then you fall into their game, the male game. It's divide and conquer. You've got to give that up. You're not only a Brazilian. First of all, when you're born, they put a rubber stamp on your backside saying you're a citizen of their government. That's the first theft. We're all born from a female womb, aren't we? We're all born human beings. We're born into the world. You're not born a Brazilian. You can't be born into a political fiction. You can't be born into the United States of America. If I told you I was a Babylonian, what would you say? This man's crazy. Babylon was 2,000 years ago. And yet there were people with this born from a female womb who called themselves Babylonians 2,000 years ago, and Carthaginians and so forth. You think there's going to be any Brazil in 500 years? And yet if the human race still exists, humans are still going to be born from female wombs. We got to get rid of this idea of nations. The national myth has run its historic course. It's now breaking up in front of our eyes.
The dream of Gary Davis now has turned into something concrete, something you can hold between your hands. So the passports and the flag and all of those things we must consider. Perhaps someday we have an Earth community, just like the European community, you see? We must take a chance over these things.
So I see the passport like a flag. You know, each one can carry this flag. You know, not Gary Davis' flag, but the humanity rights flag. His philosophy is to make the people feel that they are humans, that they don't belong to system, they don't belong to rules in the ways of
they are not grants
dictatorial rules.
States cannot grant human rights. They can only affirm human rights. Mm-hmm. See, that's they don't tell you this, because what states grant, they can also deny. And we don't allow them to deny human rights. That's why we use things like world passports, world money,
is valid?
World ID cards, etc.
No, it's
symbolic.
Ah, pas du tout. Pas du tout. C'est mon passeport. C'est mon passeport à moi. Je suis apatride. I don't have a nation. So why is it symbolic? It works. It must work. I've traveled all over the world.
Really?
I'm here in Brazil, no?
Yes.
You want to see my visa?
You travel with this passport?
That's all I have.
Deme un pasaporte. 25.
This is my passport,
Can I
okay?
see?
I want one passport. I want to be free too.
It's valid until
Huh?
valid
3 years or 8
3 years?
years.
3 years or 8 years.
Ah, yes.
This
3 years,
passport
35.